Does your dog know it's part wolf while chasing squirrels in the yard? Seems like just a fun game, right? Well, its ancestors were tough hunters, wolves. Usually wolves rule on land, but in Alaska, some have taken to the sea. Now, they're the big bosses of the ocean too. Meet the ocean's new top dogs, wolves. In 2013, a pack of Alaskan grey wolves swam over to Pleasant Island, which is near Glacier Bay National Park. When they arrived, they found lots of Sitka black-tailed deer that had never faced wolves before. The wolves quickly hunted almost all the deer, making the deer population drop significantly by 2015. Scientists thought the wolves might leave the island or starve since their main food was gone, but the wolves did something surprising instead. They started eating sea otters. This was quite unusual because wolves typically hunt animals like deer, not marine animals. By 2017, sea otters became the primary food for the wolves, making up about 57% of their diet, while deer only made up about 7%. Researchers studied this change closely from 2015 to 2021. They collected and examined 689 samples of wolf scat, poop, which showed that sea otters were a big part of their diet. They also used GPS collars to track the wolves' movements and found out that the wolves were actively hunting sea otters, not just eating ones that had died naturally. They usually caught sea otters in shallow water or when the otters were resting on rocks near the shore. The wolves adapted quickly to their new prey, showing how flexible and resourceful they are. This ability to switch to a new food source allowed the wolves to thrive on the island, even increasing their population density to levels not seen before for wolves. The wolves' presence on Pleasant Island has broader effects on the ecosystem. Sea otters are important predators in coastal areas, and with wolves eating them, it could change the balance of the ecosystem, affecting other species and interactions in the region. This situation highlights the wolves' adaptability and the ever-changing nature of predator-prey relationships. Now, sea otters might look adorable and harmless, but they're actually the big shots of the near-shore waters, mostly dining on sea urchins. Sea urchins, if left alone, can wreak havoc on kelp forests, which are super important for biodiversity. Just like wolves keep deer populations in check, sea otters keep the sea urchins from going wild. This balance helps keep the kelp forests thriving, which is crucial for the entire ecosystem. Think of it like this. On land, in Yellowstone National Park, when wolves were removed, the deer population exploded, eating up resources that beavers needed. This threw the whole ecosystem out of whack. But when wolves were brought back, balance was restored. The forests started recovering, and the diverse wildlife, including fish and birds, flourished once again. But wait, there's more. The story doesn't end there. The efforts to bring back wolves and sea otters to places they once roamed aren't just about saving these animals. It's about restoring the whole system they support. It's a powerful reminder of how interconnected nature is and how crucial these top predators are in keeping ecosystems healthy and balanced. But this wasn't the only surprise. Wolves in Alaska have never been at risk of extinction, unlike sea otters, which almost disappeared from the North Pacific due to pollution and overhunting. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the fur trade led to a drastic decline in sea otter populations, leaving only about 2,000 of them by the early 20th century. This severe reduction not only threatened the species, but also disrupted the coastal marine ecosystems where they played a crucial role. In the 1960s, conservationists decided to relocate some sea otters from the Aleutian Islands to Glacier Bay National Park. This effort proved highly successful, and the sea otter population began to grow quickly. By the early 2000s, sea otters had established a new home on Pleasant Island, right as wolves from the mainland started showing interest in the island. The sea otter's return to Pleasant Island was perfect timing for the wolves. At first, the wolves thrived on the abundant Sitka black-tailed deer on the island. However, once they had hunted most of the deer, they needed a new food source. Surprisingly, they turned to sea otters. This was quite unusual since wolves typically hunt land animals like deer, not marine animals. Researchers studied this change from 2015 to 2021. They collected and analyzed wolf scat, which showed that sea otters had become a big part of the wolves' diet. They also used GPS collars to track the wolves' movements, finding that the wolves were actively hunting sea otters, especially in shallow waters and near the shore. The wolves' ability to adapt to a new food source allowed them to continue thriving on Pleasant Island, even increasing their population density. Adaptability shows how resourceful wolves can be and highlights the ever-changing relationships between predators and prey. Sea otters, being a keystone species, play a vital role in marine ecosystems by keeping sea urchin populations in check, which in turn helps maintain healthy kelp forests. Despite the successful increase in sea otter populations, they still face several threats such as oil spills, habitat loss, pollution, and climate change. Ongoing conservation efforts are crucial to ensure their continued survival and the health of the ecosystems they support. The story of sea otters and wolves on Pleasant Island is a remarkable example of wildlife resilience and the positive impact of dedicated conservation work. In the past, wolves and sea otters probably lived in the same areas, but because there were so few sea otters for a long time, no one saw them together until now. Today, Glacier Bay is the only place in the world where wolves and sea otters live in the same habitat. This unique situation gives researchers a great chance to see how these two top predators interact. In this area, the balance of life adjusts to fit one main predator in the marine ecosystem. In this delicate ecosystem, we don't want the coastline filled with too much kelp, but we do need some sea urchins to keep the kelp under control. The growing sea otter population helps manage these sea urchins, stopping them from taking over, much like how wolves manage deer on Pleasant Island. This suggests that wolves might help keep the sea otter numbers in check so they don't grow too much. But there's a worry. Could the wolves wipe out the sea otters like they did with the deer on Pleasant Island? Not really. Researchers think the wolves need to eat about 90 adult sea otters each year to survive. Since there are about 8,000 sea otters in the area, and not all of them are near Pleasant Island, there should be enough sea otters to support both themselves and the wolves for a long time. It makes sense that the wolves on Pleasant Island started hunting sea otters because there wasn't enough other food. These wolves have been seen catching otters as they come onto the shore. Once I'm done with my snack, I'll think about what to eat next. But what's really surprising is how quickly their diet changed. In 2015 and 2016, deer made up nearly 90% of what they ate. Shockingly, by 2017, this dropped to less than 1%. Even though the number has gone up a bit as the deer population has recovered, it still hasn't gone above 10%. Scientists are puzzled about why this drastic change happened. Could it be that otters taste really good? I wouldn't know. I've never tasted otter, and I'm not a big dog. How could I guess their tastes? Maybe the wolves are going back to an old eating habit that we didn't notice before we started watching predators and their prey closely. By then, humans had already caused the sea otter numbers to drop a lot. But this wasn't the worst part. The reason behind this shift is still unclear, but findings show that the Pleasant Island wolves are not leaving their island to look for different food. They seem quite happy with their otter-based diet. Researchers think that as long as there are plenty of otters, these wolves might stay on Pleasant Island forever, unlike other wolf packs that leave when deer disappear. The wolves are not just surviving, they are also having babies. For now at least, they seem to be doing very well. Wolves in Alaska have suddenly turned into sushi fans, but instead of fish, they're munching on sea otters. Yes, you heard that right. When these clever canines ran out of deer snacks on Pleasant Island, they got creative. They started diving into the ocean buffet and picked sea otters as their new favorite dish. By 2017, the wolves had shifted from deer to a 57% sea otter diet. That's like swapping burgers for sushi as your main grub. Radical but impressive. These wolves didn't just adapt, they thrived by tapping into a food source that, until now, no one thought wolves would, or could, munch on regularly. It's like finding out your dog has learned to open the fridge and pick out the good cheese. This whole wolf-sea otter saga isn't just a quirky wildlife tidbit. It's a blockbuster drama showcasing nature's twists and turns. Wolves, traditionally forest lurkers and deer chasers, turning into semi-aquatic hunters. It's like they're trying to level up their survival game. And they're not just snacking on any sea otters, they're catching them right out of the water or while they're chilling on rocks. Now, with this diet switch, these wolves are not just surviving, they're setting up wolf condos and thriving. It's a real-time lesson in adaptability and perhaps a peek into the past, hinting at old-school wolf and otter encounters we never got to see. It's like nature's version of a reality show, where the wolves are constantly flipping the script, keeping everyone on their toes, about how wolves switch to eating sea otters. How do you think this change affects the environment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like and subscribe for more.